Hey, why? Why won't either of you answer me? I said, tears streaming down my face, pleading with my husband, John, and my daughter, Emily. It's been a month since they started ignoring me. My heart had already reached its breaking point. I don't know what triggered it. By the time I realized, John and Emily were already giving me the silent treatment. At home, it was as if I was invisible. It felt like I didn't exist at all. Hey, Dad, you hear anything? LOL. You think? Probably just your imagination, LOL. My daughter and husband chatted sarcastically right in front of me. They could clearly hear my voice and see me, yet they treated me as if I wasn't there. I couldn't bear it any longer and decided to leave home. 5 years later, my revenge was accomplished in an unexpected way. My name is Nancy Thompson, 50 years old. I'm a typical stay-at-home mom, living with my husband and daughter. I married my husband, Daniel, 23 years ago. Back then, when we were both 27, we were colleagues at the same company. We worked in IT and had a decent income. Living a comfortable life together, our daughter Emma was born when I was 30. Emma, born weighing 7.7 pounds, grew up healthy and strong without any major illnesses. When I got pregnant with Emma, I became a stay-at-home mom. I had planned to return to work after taking a year of maternity leave, but my husband opposed it. Sarah, do you really need to go back to work? What? Why? Considering Emma, wouldn't it be better if I also worked? You know my company pays well, right? I can support you and Emma on my own. But wouldn't it be better to have some savings just in case? We've worked hard together all these years. Don't you think we have enough saved up? I just want you to focus on Emma and the house. Daniel. After many discussions, I decided to quit my job. From then on, my days were filled with the challenges of childcare and housework. To be honest, I had no idea how tough parenting was until I had my child. Due to feeding every few hours, I was always sleep-deprived and felt foggy-headed, with no appetite whatsoever. Still, for my daughter's sake, I had to ensure I got the right nutrients. On top of that, trying to get all the household chores done perfectly was quite a task. Even if I tried to do the housework while my daughter slept, I was so tired that I often ended up sleeping right alongside her. It's not that my husband never helped, but he wasn't exactly proactive about it. He doted on our daughter when he was in a good mood, but would hand her off to me as soon as she started crying. That was the routine for some time. Time flew by, and before we knew it, our daughter was already 20. One day, after her coming-of-age ceremony, Sarah asked me, "Mom, we never did a photo shoot for my coming-of-age day, did we?" Well, remember, you didn't want to rent a traditional dress. So we ended up buying a new one from the store. That's why we didn't do a pre-event photo shoot. What? Why not? All my friends did a pre-event photo shoot. Well, those photo shoots aren't free, you know. That's not my problem as a kid. Isn't that something parents should handle? Sarah. Just then, my husband, who had just returned from work, peeked in. Seeing our unusual demeanor, he asked, "What's going on?" To him, Sarah replied in a whiny voice, "Listen, Dad, all my friends did a pre-event photo shoot for their coming-of-age ceremony. And I was the only one who didn't. And Mom's making lame excuses, saying it was because I didn't want to rent a dress." She said that. That's rough, I get it. If all your friends did it, of course you'd want to as well, Sarah. I knew you'd understand, Dad. How about we do a photo shoot now? I'll pay for it. Really, thanks, Dad. I love you. Sarah then turned to me, huffed, and walked out of the living room. I couldn't help but confront my husband for spoiling Sarah so conveniently. Hey, why would you make such a decision on your own? Calm down. It's just some photos. Just some photos. Do you even know how much it costs to have photos taken? If we get the digital files and make an album, it's easily around $3,000. Well, Sarah wants them, and shouldn't you be the one to pay for it? I was shocked at my husband's unexpected statement and blurted out, "What?" He then added sarcastically, I've been supporting this family all this time, right? You don't contribute to the household expenses. That might be true, but ever since Sarah was born, I've been using most of my savings for what she needs. Shut up. You just need to do as I say and nothing else. What do you mean by that? I'm not the maid of this house, you know. Then leave. LOL. Think an unemployed person like you could make a living out there. LOL. With an inappropriate smirk, my husband uttered those words. As much as I hate to admit it, he's not entirely wrong. Even as our daughter grew up, he always found some excuse to discourage me from going back to work, so I have no income now. When we get married, I had close to $100,000 in savings, but now it's dwindled down to just $20,000. If I were to leave the house, living on my own would be quite challenging. Thinking that way, I couldn't muster a response. Biting my lower lip, my husband, with a smug look, threw words at me. You can't survive without me. Get that? Just do as you're told and keep quiet. I get it. You should have just agreed from the start, LOL. Make sure you organize Lisa's post-prom photo shoot, okay? Yes? My husband quickly shed his suit and headed straight for the shower. As I picked up the suit and hung it on a hanger, a growing anger bubbled up inside me. What's with that attitude of his? How much do Lisa and Mike have to belittle me to be satisfied? It's not like I'm happily staying a stay-at-home mom by choice. After much consideration, I decided to start a work-from-home job for any unforeseen circumstances. Since my husband told me, do whatever you like, I began a job that kept me within his tax bracket. The cost for my daughter's post-event photo shoot was $3,500. She insisted on getting the largest album and wanted all the photo data. That's how we ended up with this price. Looking at the finished photos, Lisa commented, "Ack, these don't look good. I know I'm cuter than this." Don't say that. The photographer really did his best. Isn't it the studio's fault in the first place? It was your choice, Mom, wasn't it? LOL. What? The only place available on your free day was that studio? Yeah, spare me the excuses, LOL. I probably won't look at this album again, so just put it away or something. What's that supposed to mean? Anger and sadness made her voice quiver, and she felt like yelling at her. But as a mother, she knew she couldn't let her emotions get the best of her. Taking a deep breath to compose herself, she held back tears and retreated to the kitchen. But she was yet to realize the real storm was still on the horizon. The next day I prepared breakfast as usual, but my husband and daughter didn't come down. Getting worried, I was about to call out to them when I heard the two of them talking as they descended the stairs. Hey, Dad, where should we go for breakfast? Well, honey, there's that cafe by the train station that's famous for its breakfast, you know. Oh, I want to go there then. All right, let's head out soon then. They put on their shoes and headed straight out the front door. Not knowing what was going on, I instinctively shouted towards my husband. Hey, wait a minute. David, Lena, what about breakfast? Are you listening? Breakfast is ready. Come on, Lena, let's go. The front door slammed shut, and their cheerful voices faded away. I don't know what happened, but there's one thing I'm sure of. I was ignored by my husband and daughter. And it wasn't just once. No matter how many times I called out, I was completely disregarded. What on earth? They didn't hear me. But that can't be right. Both of them, why all of a sudden? I thought it was just a whim, but I had underestimated the situation. By evening, they both came home at the same time. Apparently, they'd eaten dinner together because they didn't even glance at the dishes I prepared. They simply headed to their rooms. The next day, and the day after that, the same pattern continued, and my heart was surely breaking. Before I knew it, a month had passed since they started ignoring me. There was no change in my husband and daughter's behavior, and that day, a filled-out divorce paper was left in the living room. Hey, what's the meaning of this? I tried to ask my husband, but he completely ignored me. He and our daughter were cheerfully eating pizza and watching a movie together. That was the moment. The complex emotions I'd held back reached their breaking point. Despite my panic, I managed to speak up. Hey, why? Why won't either of you answer me? Tears streamed down as I pleaded with my husband and daughter, but there was no response. While I was distraught, they just giggled and continued watching their movie. I don't know what triggered it. By the time I realized, I was being ignored by my very own husband and daughter. At home, it felt like I was invisible, as if I didn't exist at all. Hey Dad, do you hear something? LOL. Do I? Probably just your imagination. LOL. Right in front of me, my daughter and husband snickered and talked sarcastically. They could clearly hear my voice and should be able to see me, yet they treated me as if I wasn't there. I've reached my breaking point. Gripping the divorce papers, I hastily packed essentials into my suitcase and left the house without a word. I headed to my childhood home, about an hour away by train. Thankfully, both of my parents are still alive and well. They were shocked to see me show up unexpectedly with my luggage, but after explaining, they kindly took me in. I see. You've had it tough. I'm sorry we didn't notice sooner. Naomi, it must have been tough for you. Stay with us until you feel better, okay? Hearing these kind words from my dad and mom, my vision blurred with tears. That day, I cried out loud for the first time in decades. The next day, I filed for divorce and went back to my maiden name, Wilson, from my married name, Collins. It felt a bit lonely, but I managed to pull myself together. Then, even if it seemed reckless, I started looking for a job. I had quit working at 30 and had been unemployed for 20 years. At 50, I wondered if there was a job out there for someone like me. But thankfully, the first company I applied to hired me on the spot. Having previously worked for a well-known company played in my favor, and I was quickly entrusted with tasks. Fast forward 5 years, I'd become familiar with my work and now handled significant responsibilities. For the past 3 years, I'd also been in charge of training newcomers, and I developed a good rapport with a male colleague named Jackson. Since he's the same age as my daughter, I've come to see him almost like a son. Turns out his mom is around my age too. From work chats to casual conversations, we've had a lot to talk about. This year marks Jackson's 3rd year with the company. One day, he handed me an envelope. Jackson, what's this? Asking casually, he replied with a hint of embarrassment. Actually, I'm getting married. I wanted to invite you, Mrs. Miller. Oh my, congratulations. I'd love to be there. Yes, thank you so much. When I got home and looked at the invitation, I couldn't believe my eyes. In the bride section was none other than my daughter's name, Lena Miller. This can't be real. What are the odds? Right at that moment, my smartphone signaled an incoming call. It was from my ex-husband. Hello. It's been a while. Have you been? What do you want? Don't be so cold. Lena's getting married. So, come to the wedding. What are you talking about? We're divorced and not a couple anymore. Sorry, but I don't see Lena as my daughter anymore. What are you saying? Just come, okay? I'll send the invite to your folks' place. Without waiting for a response, Michael hung up the phone. However, I had no intention whatsoever of attending my daughter's wedding as the mother of the bride. That said, I had already told Mr. Williams that I would attend. It would be rude to back out now. With that in mind, I decided to attend the wedding strictly as a superior from the groom's side. Fast forward to the wedding day. 2 months later, I took my seat with other colleagues as a guest from the groom's side. Apparently, only the bride and groom were participating in the actual ceremony, and guests were invited from the reception onwards. There was one empty seat in the family section. My ex-husband hadn't noticed me yet. After the couple's introduction video ended, the candle ceremony began. Mr. Williams approached my table, greeting me with evident joy. "Oh, Mrs. Thompson, thank you for coming today." As he smiled, next to him stood my daughter, her eyes wide and face pale. Seeing this, my ex-husband's face turned white as a sheet, and he ran over. "What the hell is going on? Why are you sitting at Mr. Williams' table?" The entire venue's attention turned to my husband, who was desperately trying to get answers. Suddenly, Mr. Williams, who had been watching the whole scene, asked curiously, Excuse me, sir. Do you happen to know Mrs. Thompson?" "She's more than just an acquaintance. She's Lena's mother." "What? But I was told Lena's mom left her family behind and took off." Well, about that. It seems my ex-husband and daughter painted me as the villain and twisted the story to their advantage with Mr. Williams." Amidst their visibly awkward expressions, I spoke up clearly. "Mr. Williams, I apologize for not being upfront. It's true, I am Lena's mother." "Mrs. Thompson, is it true you left Lena and her father?" "That's not the whole story. I was treated like a housemaid by my husband and daughter, and they started completely ignoring me at home." "Ignored?" "Yes. That went on for a month, and I reached my breaking point. My husband even had the divorce papers ready, so I took them and left. It wasn't me abandoning them. They pushed me away." "Hey, Lena, what's this about? Why did you ignore your own mother?" Lena's sweet smile from moments ago disappeared, and she retorted defiantly. "Because everything she does is so annoying. So, Dad and I decided to ignore her. Can you believe she left after just a month? Hilarious, right? LOL. Lena, are you serious?" "Don't worry. I won't be a bother to you, Ryan, Mr. Williams. Just think of me as someone without a mom." As if nothing had happened, Lena wore a cheerful grin again. In stark contrast, Mr. Williams' face turned beet red. "What the hell? Don't joke around. I never thought you were this kind of person." Upon hearing Ryan's raised voice, Lena widened her eyes in surprise, muttering, "What?" She probably never expected Ryan to take my side. Ryan forcefully shrugged off Lena's grasp and coldly declared, "The engagement is off. I'm glad I saw your true colors before we turned in the marriage license." "Wait, what? This is a joke, right? Ryan, don't touch me. I don't want to talk to someone as low as you anymore. The reception is canceled too." "No, this can't be happening." Ryan grabbed the microphone and apologized to the guests, saying, "I'm so sorry." He then urged them to return their gifts and head home. "Wait, please, everyone. Don't leave." Lena cried out with tears in her eyes, but the guests left, giving her cold stares. As I was about to follow them out, my ex-husband Jake shouted, "Hey, Nate, do something about this." "What? Why should I?" "Because this is all your fault, isn't it? You ruined Lena's wedding. Don't you feel guilty?" I couldn't help but burst out laughing at Jake's desperate plea. "What's so funny?" Matching his raised voice, I shot back, "Just so you know, I don't feel the slightest bit guilty about Lena, okay? This mess, it's the result of seeds you two sowed. It's like karma came back around after 5 years. That's all there is to it. But Lena's wedding, I don't care. But I'm glad. I'm relieved that my valued colleague, Ryan, didn't end up marrying such trash. He deserves someone much better. So, goodbye. I doubt we'll ever see each other again." With that, I left the venue without looking back at them. I finally felt a clear sense of relief. Afterward, Ryan and Lena's engagement was called off. Apparently, Lena had always been a temp worker and had planned to quit her job upon getting married. Now, without a job and dumped by her fiancé, Lena, possibly due to stress, began recklessly buying designer goods online. Nowadays, her ex-husband is desperately dipping into his savings to support their daughter. That kind of lifestyle can't last forever. It's clear to see that they're headed for ruin someday. With that, the weight of my lingering emotions has been lifted. From now on, I want to fully embrace life for my own happiness.